Inside Out 2 was pretty good. Original Pixar movies are dead.
It's a human thing. I'm kind of an expert.
What does it mean? The thing you just said?
Alright, so I'll try to keep spoilers light, but spoiler alert all the same. For real though, Inside Out 2 is probably the best Pixar movie to come out in years. Not saying the originals were bad by any case. Elemental, Luca, Turning Red were still pretty good, but nowhere near as good or entertaining as this movie though. Plus, Lightyear was pretty bad, and I'm sure Onward has been forgotten by the majority of people. The animation of Inside Out 2 was pretty solid Pixar level quality like always, and it actually was very much improved since the first movie. The characters are more cartoony now and really let loose with the animation when it comes to the emotions, while still kind of grounding itself in the reality parts of the movie. There were even plenty of jokes and references that got a good chuckle out of me. They even had an I can change her joke made by Fear of all people.
Look, I don't like her words, and I do not like her actions. I just think I can change her.
You know what?
Which honestly was just so out there it gave me a good laugh. It felt almost like I was watching a movie made by early 2000s Pixar again. And I feel like this movie is a solid, yeah, we're back from Pixar. I mean, second biggest box office opening in history is nothing to sneeze at. And I know there's a really vocal crowd of people that absolutely hate sequels for some reason, but it's really easy to take their opinions with a grain of salt when most sequels are usually the biggest sellers in the theater. It just kind of shows that you can really enjoy a movie as long as it's entertaining, sequel or not. I, for one, don't care if a movie is original or not, it just needs to be enjoyable for me. And Inside Out 2 is very enjoyable. The movie opens up right out of the gate. As soon as it started, I was kind of like, wait, is it starting? Oh, it's starting. It kind of gives you a small recap in case you forgot or haven't seen the first movie by introducing the characters like a WWE introduction during the game of hockey, which was pretty cute. It also quickly introduces the belief system, and really just sets up the entire plot in the first 10 minutes, with the rest falling into place pretty naturally. There were a lot of new voice actors in this movie, coming in as either new characters or replacing old ones, with the only ones really reprising their roles being Amy Poehler as Joy, Phyllis Smith as Sadness, and Lewis Black as Anger, as well as the parents coming back from the first movie. But everyone did a fantastic job, especially Maya Hawke as Anxiety, who I feel really stole the show. Speaking of anxiety, the new emotions felt pretty much right at home. You had Anxiety as the lead antagonist, envy, ennui, which is supposed to be boredom, and embarrassment. The only emotion I feel got the short end of the stick was envy, as she ended up just kind of being a yes man to Anxiety, and didn't really do much outside of that. I also feel like ennui was more or less the filler emotion, when Riley didn't need to feel anything else, which was kind of weird because it also included things like sarcasm and acting chill. Overall though, I really liked them, and I feel like a lot of people who watch this movie are going to end up shipping Sadness and Embarrassment because they're just so adorable. And also Fear and Anxiety because Fear can fix her.
I just think I can change her.
You know what?
The references and jokes made in this movie were also really good. I feel like it didn't go 2 minutes without some kind of Easter egg or visual gag that kept the movie on a roll. You have things like the sarcasm, which turned anything you yell across into a sarcastic version of it. I mean, who doesn't like a good pun? The Imagination Room being run like an animation studio, as well as a 1984 reference, was hilarious to me. And it really shows how both the writers and animators were allowed to be really tongue-in-cheek with this movie. Although I'm sure most kids aren't probably going to understand the 1984 reference outside of it being in Fortnite, which, you know, that's fine, but at least it was something that I was able to point out and go like, ha, that's kind of funny. There's even a Cloud Strife reference as Lance Slashblade, a Blue's Clues reference as Bluefy, and a Mickey Mouse Clubhouse / Dora the Explorer character as Pouchy, which goes to show that millennials are now officially working at Disney Pixar and is a sign of future references to come. Having all the emotions be head over heels for Lance, especially disgust, was very funny.
I'm in 100%.
The one thing that really kind of gets brushed off in this movie, though, is the whole puberty thing. You can take the new emotions as puberty, and this being a story more about puberty as an emotional thing, but it doesn't really brush on Riley going through puberty as much as it goes through her issues with hockey and her future life at a new school. You could very easily remove puberty in its entirety and just have the emotions come in when she goes to the hockey camp, and nobody would really bat an eye at the difference. But the end of the movie was probably the strongest part of it all, where anxiety goes overboard and ends up giving Riley an anxiety attack. I know that panic attacks and anxiety attacks in movies are a hot topic right now, with Puss in Boots, Spider-Verse, the Mario movie, the Paw Patrol movie, all including this kind of scene, but I feel like this movie wouldn't have been able to push the message like they did without one. I mean, anxiety is the antagonist. Why wouldn't you have an anxiety attack in your movie? The portrayal of anxiety trying very hard to push Riley into accomplishing a better future for herself, only to end up giving Riley an anxiety attack, is genius. Because, on one hand, all of the emotions in the movie just want what's best for Riley and are trying to do it in their own way. Joy just wants Riley to be happy, and anxiety wants Riley to be prepared for the worst. But the way the scene plays out not only shows how scary an anxiety attack can really be, but it also shows that letting one emotion control you isn't healthy in any way, and suppressing the others, both physically and mentally, can hinder your growth as a person. It was such a double whammy when watching this scene play out for the first time that it managed to actually bring a tear to my eyes, because it's something I'm sure we've all experienced at one point in life. Not having an anxiety attack, I mean, it's a very awful feeling I hope a lot of people don't end up having, but suppressing emotions in general. Because I'm sure, one way or another, be it anger, sadness, embarrassment, or anything else, we've tucked that part of ourselves away and hid it from the world. And letting one emotion take control of your life can be really harmful in the long run. Inside Out 2 manages to send these messages in a way that didn't feel forced, and it didn't make anxiety out to be this kind of evil emotion nobody should have. Because a little bit of anxiety in our lives can be good to help us plan ahead, and too much of one other emotion could also be a hindrance as well. In conclusion, I feel like this movie is just an amazing experience. And I hope it shows Pixar and other studios that stories that focus on internal conflict can be just as entertaining as stories about adventuring or stories with a downright good and bad side of things, and not just that sequels are better than the original stories. I rate this movie a solid 10 out of 10. It's a great time, and I think everyone should see this movie at least once. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got some shipping art to make.